back here again in the moderator's seat. I don't have to do the heavy lifting. I have a wonderful panel to help us do this. In the interest of time, trying to read the topic itself may take the next couple of minutes, so we will. The beauty of the topic is that it gives us a fair amount of latitude for all of us to share perspectives, but we were also thinking of making it a little bit more provocative. But maybe just to, listening to all the conversations, I'm reminded of an old, this is one of the stories from the Arabian Nights or something, where Nasiruddin Hoja is asked to moderate two people fighting with each other, and he says, you are right, and he looks, how can you tell him that you are right, I'm also right? He says, you're also right, and the third guy comes and says, how can you say both of you are right? He says, you're also right. Maybe the conversation around AI reminds us of that AI can be used for good, AI is bad, and can be used to wreak havoc, and maybe anybody who contests, both of that is also right. So in this perspective, I would love to, especially around, if you were to look at the funding landscape and what we as philanthropists, investors, and CSR at the intersection were to do to really make technology work for the betterment of humanity. It'd be wonderful to just get your opening comments for about 4 to 5 minutes each, and then we will do a round of questions. So, Preeta, maybe start with you.
All my knowledge of AI can be captured in 4 seconds. I'm learning about AI only recently, and I'm very, very excited by that. Hallucination, guardrails, lived reality, agentic AI. All I can say, it's like I've got all the right buzzwords. But, yes, something exciting is happening. I closed the .com industry. I take credit for closing it globally. So whenever you get me on talking about it, I always worry. Because I think the previous somebody said I think Bhaskar talked about the fact that maybe it just closed up, maybe it's a bubble. But having said that, I think I understand it from a user and what it can do. I spent last night at a hospital, not a pleasant thing to do. And I watched the board which says, EWS beds, 15 critical beds, none available. 23 non-critical beds, 8 filled, 15 vacancies. And I'm thinking, 15 vacancies in a place like Delhi, why are these beds not filled? With all this talk of AI, how can we use this data to be able to reach out? I can think of so many people who would probably need that bed. So what data sets do you use? What kind of other whether it is the Pradhan Mantri insurance scheme or whatever, to make sure that it is reaching. How does even a poor person know that there is a bed available here? So to me, that is fundamental, that we are still not able to kind of do that. Having said that, if I look at it from an investor, an impact funder, somebody whose work at XLRI, we kind of do research work in these areas. I think 3 interesting things are happening. One is, whether you call it AI or technology or data, I think we now have an opportunity to do insightful work on projects. Yeah. So, for example, education, and a lot of people here, I know, and a good friend Mamta is here. In spite of a lot of work being done in education, learning outcomes year on year, we hear learning outcomes are still kind of where they are. We are interested in improving learning outcomes for tribal students, particularly also because XLRI started in Jamshedpur. And we're trying to see what really is that factor which will help improve that learning outcome. We've got several models, whether it is teacher training, whether it is parent-teacher association, whether it is infrastructure, whether it is the tribal residential Eklavya model schools, whether it is nutrition. How do I use AI to kind of narrow down and see what will make the maximum impact? And I think that's a huge opportunity that I find investors, impact funders, researchers, and all of us can kind of do. The second is in implementation, per se. Just a simple thing, and we are using for work that we are doing with the state government. previously, what would have taken a lot of time to do ground surveys, field surveys, in finding out what women are doing at, in terms of their business in SHGs, we now have an AI ML model that in about 10 seconds, it's a set of 13 questions developed in association with, not in association, but under guidance of Professor Richard Thaler, the Nobel Prize winner for nudge theory, which assesses in about 15, 20 questions non-cognitive behavior with 98% accuracy on whether you have entrepreneurial abilities, and categorizes it into champion, master, rookie. So what it does now, suddenly what would have taken surveys and field, whatever, you're now using technology for implementation. And the third is in terms of monitoring and evaluation. And again, you can get much more insightful reports, et cetera. So that's what I believe are my thoughts on this. Don't ask me about AI though.
Maybe you didn't talk about AI, you talked about 3I, right? Which is insights, implementation, and impact, which is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you,
Dr.
Madan.
Suresh.
So we are talking about the AI everywhere. I am not talking about either is good or bad, but how we are prepared to adapt it. That is the question. This early morning, just I was reading the Economic Times newspaper. There is a small article. They showed the depicting the American society, how much time it takes to adapt the new technology. Starting with the fridge, I'm talking about 1930s and kind of thing. It took almost 50, 60 years to reach the 100% saturation. Then a vacuum cleaner, we're talking about. Then we come to the recent past, we're talking about the feature phone, how much time it take. And the internet, now the smartphone, now we're talking about the AI. In all these technologies, these are the evolving technologies. So the adaptation is very steep. It's not, the curve is not like cross linear kind of, it's a very steep, straight curve kind of thing. So soon, maybe next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, it's inevitable that whoever is not literate with the AI kind of thing, they're outdated. So we talk adult literacy in terms of the reading, writing numbers, then digital literacy, now AI literacy. So if that is the inevitable, and everybody should be familiar with that. And come to the how the social capital, the future of social capital in India, in the AI age, we're talking about. Here, social capital technologies, AI is one is adding element here. Before that, today people talk about for social impact, you are just only the CSR is the only one source of funding talking about. CSR is one of the many things are there, but people are familiar with the CSR, but not familiar with the impact bonds, or it is the social stock exchange, or blended finance, or high net worth HNI contributions, retail source of contributions kind of thing. So still the people are struggling to access the resources from these sources, and on top of that, now AI came into the picture. So from this point of view, how well we prepared ourselves as somebody who is part of the any CSO organization's point of view, how we prepared well to leverage whatever happening there, and whether as an organization, I am part of this organization, what are the impact I am making through my organization, am I ready to leverage these things? If we reflect ourselves, then we see that where we are, and then it helps you to what steps you have to initiate and kind of thing. As of today, the CSR is just 1/3 of contributions out of the, for example, HNI contributions or the retail contributions. More than 1,20,000 crores, 20,000 crores is coming up there. So we are talking about only 34,000 crores of the CSR. The remaining we are not talking about much. So now we have to how to access those things, and especially in AI point of view, it is going to be a game changer. So it is not a relationship-based kind of resource access kind of thing. If I know you, you know me, then can we do together one project and kind of thing. So here it is like a metro bias at maybe, because relationship, you are building the partnerships and kind of thing. And AI comes there. It is a data-driven, whether you are in metro or in a rural area and kind of thing. So they can access the capital. kind of thing. At the same time, those who are funding the social entrepreneurs innovations kind of thing, they also can verify the data specific to the capital goal, where they want to invest that money kind of thing, which are the targeted audience for that, where they are there kind of thing. So they can take the informed decisions kind of thing. It is going to be more the predictive outcomes or predictive impact one can make the kind of thing. And also AI going to be help you as a matchmaking. So the matchmaking not depend. Earlier, if you want to get married, you have to depend somebody else. Can you find girl for me? You can find a boy for me. Now that matrimonial websites have come there, I'm not sure that it's there, good or bad, but it's a possibility is there where you can able to find sitting at your home in your room kind of thing, not depending anybody. Like you are ordering the Swiggy or Zomato, all this sitting at home. So like that, AI is a platform, as a tool for both for the funders, both for the social innovators, the entrepreneurs kind of thing. So how we can leverage that? That is the
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Beautifully said. No, in fact, as both of you were speaking, I was just reflecting on this. I think it is attributed to Peter Drucker, who said the future is when technology seems like magic, and decisions are instantaneous, right? What you're also talking about is that, you know, the power of AI. Was actually in the Boston AI Week a couple of months ago, and the overwhelming consensus was that AI is at the same stage where web was in early 2000s or late 99s, 2000. We're only scratching the surface. But what took 15 years for the web to evolve will probably evolve. AI will evolve in 3 years with its own boom-bust cycles. So to what you're talking about is that, one, there is the power of AI that is developing exponentially, but to also to say what is the impact and what is the intent that we want the tool to use, and can we work backwards from that. And like, you know, we had a situation in Bangalore where they dug the underground tunnel, and the tunnel kind of, when we dug it from both sides, there was a mismatch of a few centimeters, right? So we just need to make sure that it connects well, right? When both of these things happen. So in that context, Mansi, with all the fantastic work that you're doing at Digital Green, the name says it all. Would love to hear about your experiences on really leveraging the power, and also you had resource mobilization and donors. What are you hearing from the donors and the global philanthropic networks about the use of AI, especially for such a critical area as agriculture?
Thanks, Madan. I think just to add on to that point of yours, wherein there was a mismatch in Bangalore of that underground thing, I think it's the same in Mumbai as well.
Oh, yeah, so that flyover, right?
The flyover.
You guys copied it.
Yeah, maybe the same engineers,
Yeah.
you know. So yeah, I think very interestingly, you know, if we look at you know, the age of AI right now, and especially taking it from Suresh about the social capital that we would want to actually talk about today. What I understand, and probably I would like to, in fact, you know, start with a simple reminder is, you know, social capital is fundamentally about trust. Trust between communities, between institutions, between funders. And that trust is something which I think technology is not really replacing, but reshaping in terms of building the trust, sustaining that trust, and also probably scaling that trust. Connecting it back with Digital Green as such, you know, we've worked in the space, in the agtech space as such for 17 years now. We've worked with smallholder farmers, with women collectives, with you know, frontline workers, in fact, FPOs and all kinds of stakeholders as such. What we really understand is impact can be the strongest when you know, the recipients or the beneficiaries are not just the recipients of the technology or the solution, but they're actually real contributors into the technology. So taking it forward, you know, that's how PharmaChat was actually shaped. PharmaChat as a platform, as a you know, technology, you know, it started with actually connecting with the farmers, understanding what their questions are, understanding what challenges they're coming across. Through those inputs, building the platform further so that we're able to provide the right kind of solutions. Now, how does this connect with funders? You know, for funders, like I mentioned earlier as well, you know, they become a part of that entire evaluation process, right, while the project is being implemented. So maybe within days, they are able to see what kind of questions the farmers are asking, what is the kind of information that they need, where does the funding really need to go. So the impact and the, you know, the funding actually is aligned very well. And they don't really need to wait for a report at the end of the project cycle to actually determine what the course correction has to be or what way should we really go forward. While we talk about understanding impact and the funders, I think it is important to also look at measurement. So while AI provides opportunity to, you know, probably track data and give us fantastic dashboards, but what is important is to look at the social capital angle here, because measurement will also come from the angle of you know, inclusion, trust, and ensuring that the technology actually reaches the last mile. So I think those were few points which I would like to talk about from a funder's point of view. And lastly, you know, while we look at changing landscape of AI, the capital and the fundraising, you know, dynamics have also been changing. So moving from maybe a static project to a more adaptive or a dynamic project, and also maybe, you know, I would say initial philanthropies basically support the risk factor, you know, when you start with something like an AI or a technology. CSR funding actually supports the overall systemic aspect.
Right.
Impact funding is something which actually helps you take that entire
Scale.
proven solution to a scale. And that is where actually the entire blended finance aspect comes in, when
Nice.
you have all these aspects, you know, proven, and then you move into a blended
So
finance.
it's almost like a continuum and a relay race
Absolutely.
that should ideally sync up. Super. So we have another 8.5 minutes, and this is a question that we haven't discussed. I'm going to just throw this curveball at you. Assuming that, and this is all about shaping the new funding landscape, and assuming that we have truckloads of money, so let's make that assumption for the next 9 minutes. So if each of us had, let's say, 1,000 crores to deploy now, okay, and I'm speaking of a large number because India needs that kind of numbers,
Who is giving that funding?
that we'll figure out. Where would you, what would you do, where would you deploy that and why?
And I can take a global landscape.
You can take a global landscape.
Okay, so I'll take two. One really is, and maybe that might happen, so I'll need 300 crores for that. Okay. The rest for that global solution. So, he's mentioned a figure. So honestly, my work in Mera Business is with women from low and middle income background. And you know, we talk of the same issues, lack of access to finance, lack of access to market. To me, the dream is if this woman from Purulia or Jhansi or Bankura or Nalagonda or anywhere, her market is not limited to just her area or her state or India, but she's able to go global. And how can AI be able to kind of make that happen? Because the aspirations are immense, the markets are there. So that's something we kind of, I mean, in a very, very small manner, doing it in, but I'm delighted if you give me 300 crores, we'll do that. Thank you. For the rest, and this is like, it's a wishful thinking. The more the world is coming together because of technology and whatever, the more is the world is becoming distant from each other. We have barriers and schisms and people hating each other and people whatever. Can I develop a compatibility quotient? So if I'm meeting somebody from another race, culture, country, religion, food habits, whatever, I'm able to first find out what is it that we are alike in, you know, so that my barriers of what are the differences drop, I first get the similarities first. So tell me when and ready to start.
Super.
Thank you.
I'll sign a blank check.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It'll be totally blank. But wonderful, wonderful ideas. I love both, especially the second one about technology sometimes divides us. We need to find more commonalities than differences.
yeah. 1,000 crores is a small amount.
And
but
there
it's
we
a
go.
big country. It's a-
We have the money
yeah,
like
it's a
that,
big
yeah.
country like India.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you see human development, talking about either it is education, or health, or sanitation, drinking water, women empowerment, whatever the theme you can choose and kind
Yeah.
of thing. Since I am very much involved with education, the skilling space.
Right.
So again, one more time, just to give you a reference of. So again, today's newspaper talking about how women empowered in rural areas, especially because of the direct beneficiary transfer, the fund transfer.
DBTs, huh?
So in last few years' time, one state to 15 states adopted this scheme kind of thing. The dynamics of the role of the women at home has changed. So it's not just only the educated girls are today they are on par with the boys and kind of things regulated in society kind of thing. So here that money empowering them where there is no intermediary between. Just a fraction of a second it reaches them and they have the decision making power. So in the case of 1,000 crores we are talking about, if today's context, the government schools in the country, there are 15 lakh total schools,
Correct.
out of which around 10 to 11 lakhs are the government schools talking about. So they are like nobody's babies in terms of many reasons point of view. If you want to promote the quality of education, at the same time we want to promote the innovations. It is not you prescribe, tell you do this kind of thing. So you decide what suitable for your context kind of thing. So you can transfer 1,000 crore rupees, so it is, I said, small amount for the 10, 11 lakhs schools point of view. And give that time for them, 5 to 6 months time, just to come up with what is the innovative idea, how you transfer, how you use this amount, and leverage local resource as well kind of thing. What is your innovation? You can showcase those things. It will be an example for the world.
Beautiful. So you're saying you will put more and all the money on fostering innovation and entrepreneurial thinking in school kids, especially in government schools. Fantastic. I'll add some more money to that as well, but absolutely makes sense. Yeah.
Maybe I would start with Suresh. If 1,000 crores is a small amount, or all our bank accounts are open for that. So I don't need to transfer some. But yeah, I mean, if I look at what we are looking at as an ambition at Digital Green, we've already started working on something which is more like a digital public infrastructure, like an agriculture ecosystem, wherein multiple stakeholders, including government and agri-tech providers, in fact funders, local institutions. If all these different players and stakeholders can come on one platform and look into an interoperability aspect from that end. So for example, we've started this wherein the farmers on the application were actually looking for government schemes and information around the policies. Since of course our Haq Darshak already had a platform which had all this information available on the platform, we did not really create a separate institution or a platform as such. We integrated their APIs into the platform, and now the farmers can actually access that through Haq Darshak's platform. So we're looking at actually a lot of such partners who can come together, come up with interoperable solutions, so that this does not become a private tool as such. It becomes more like a public ecosystem.
Wonderful. No, that's fantastic. And for whatever is left after all the 1,000 crores have been done, my dream is that can we really create 100,000 rural youth as entrepreneurs, as AI entrepreneurs who will pledge and say, listen, I'm going to take the benefits of this new technology to 1,000 people each. So the multiplier effect of reaching 100 million people who can become exemplars or usage for this new tech through a trusted network is where I will put money. What we'll need is this group to kind of fork up 4,000 or 5,000 crores. But I think intent is what matters. If we can really wish that each of these will come true, I'm sure as a group we will make it happen. So on that note, wonderful to be here. We are winding up just on time with a minute to spare. We will keep it up for the evening ceremony so that we can clap more. But Lovely being here, and thank you so much. I think my wish is that let us make all of these dreams come true and do whatever it takes to make it happen, because we need it, right? So thank you so much.